Hello and welcome to the ADHD Artist Podcast, where we explore and celebrate the lives of artists with ADHD. Listen to interviews with all different types of artists with ADHD, where we talk about life, art, superpowers, and... Wait, what was I saying? Hosted by Sarah Guys, your fellow ADHD artist. Thanks for joining. Okay, hello everybody. Oh my gosh, it's been a while. I've missed you. There has been a lot going on. I think the last episode I released was a few months ago, so forgive me for my little hiatus, but I promise you that there are some great episodes coming out. I have 3 that I will be releasing in the next month, so get ready for some ADHD Artist Podcast. Make sure to hit subscribe so that you can stay up to date. Great, that's my only sales pitch for today. So today I am so excited to introduce you all to Stacey Machelle. I've been wanting to have Stacey on the podcast for a while now, and we finally made our schedules work. Stacey is an actor, comedian, former newscaster, and writer, and all the things. And she has a new show that's sort of new. It's been around since, I think, January. It's called ADHD is the New Black. It's on YouTube, and you should absolutely subscribe to that. I have. It is thoroughly entertaining and very educational, and Stacey is passionate about making sure there is representation specifically for women of color in the ADHD community and the mental health conversation in general. And she is just doing such a good job of getting information out there in such an accessible and hilarious way. Isn't it so funny when you talk about really dark things, especially mental health related? Like, oh, I was so depressed last week, ha ha ha. And then we make jokes about it. And that's kind of the only way that we can talk about it and that it's palatable, because otherwise it's just too overwhelming. Stacey does such a good job of talking about things that are difficult in a way that's so accessible and funny. So I have been really excited to have her on. So part of the reason I am releasing this today, October 16th, is that tomorrow, October 17th, is Stacey's birthday. So wish her a happy birthday. You'll see links to her page and the best gift you can give her, and we'll talk about this a lot on today's episode, is to hit subscribe to her YouTube channel. It's called ADHD is the New Black. So, a little about Stacey. Let's get her bio here. A graduate of the Second City, Stacey Machelle is a sketch writer / performer, producer, and comedian, and she was a finalist in the Disney ABC writing program. In her past professional life, she worked as a professional journalist for Scripps Howard News Service and as an on-air news anchor for CBS and later on-air talent and writer for TMZ. Stacey currently works as an audience warm-up comic on various talk and game shows in Los Angeles. She is currently the warm-up comic for A Little Late with Lily Singh, which you'll hear more about in the interview. Her video pitch for the halftime show placed among the top 3 finalists in the People's Choice Awards spin-off contest. The top 3 finalists were chosen by the creative board of the New York Television Festival and the internet voting community. And like I said earlier, she is the creator and star of ADHD is the New Black on YouTube. So cool. One thing to tell you guys before we jump into the interview is I am going to start having, I don't want to call them advertisements, but I am going to start telling you guys about some cool programs that I know of or organizations or companies that could be potentially helpful. I promise I won't put anything on here that I don't fully believe in, so you can trust me there and blame me if you hate it. But I just wanted to give you a heads up. There's been some great interest in the podcast, which is very exciting, and I want to help as many people as possible. So cool. Let's just get to the interview. That's why you're here, right? Cool, here we go. This is my interview with Stacey Machelle. Enjoy.
All right. I am here with Stacey Machelle. Thank you so much for being here, Stacey.
Thank you for inviting me.
Of course.
As in typical ADHD fashion, I missed our first, the first invite you gave me. Just totally forgot about it.
It's like perfect for the ADHD podcast, right? It's like, oops,
I know.
oh no. Yeah.
Yes. So we're learning a lesson, or I am learning a lesson that we can apply right off the bat. It's okay to make mistakes.
Yes, it is okay to make mistakes.
It is okay to make mistakes. And it's even better when the person that you're dealing with also has ADHD, because they understand.
Yeah, they're like, oh my God, I did that last week. So yeah, we're good. We're good. Awesome. I like to start off by just asking, and you kind of already gave me one, but I like to ask, what was a super noticeable ADHD moment that you've had in like the last couple days?
Just in the last few days? Well, it was actually forgetting that we were going to record this podcast yesterday, because the night before, right before I went to sleep, I made a mental checklist of what I have going on, or what I had going on for Saturday. I looked at the calendar on my phone. Okay, that's tomorrow at 11. And then I woke up the next day like, what am I doing today? Oh, whatever I want. It just didn't even register. It was like, and this is what I told my therapist, what it was like fumbling around the dark for 15, 20 years, undiagnosed. It was like, and it still is, when I'm unmedicated, it's like there are two of me. And the one person really is trying to like keep herself on track, really trying to be organized, trying to be an adult. And then there's another me that's just running around setting off booby traps for her, It's like they're just two of me. And it's like the one me went to bed like, I'm ready for tomorrow, and then the other me woke up like, I'm not doing anything today.
So then when were you diagnosed? Is there a story there?
There is. I love stories. I love telling stories. They're so long and boring when I do.
I'm ready for it. This is the perfect time.
All right. I was first diagnosed at age 26.
Okay.
That was in my first career. I used to be a news reporter, TV news reporter. And I was diagnosed at 26 because I was having a lot of issues with some of the minutia of that particular career. Journalism, TV news isn't just I get to be on TV and, report on this exciting stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that go into the production part that, at a certain level, you are also responsible for. The higher up you go, other people are responsible for that stuff. But when you're just starting out, you're in a relatively small market. So at least I was relatively small, medium-ish, but I was still responsible for a lot of details, like giving my out cues for my packages, turning in, graphics and chyrons that I wanted to use for my packages. Packages for people who aren't familiar with broadcasting terms. That's just the stories you see on TV, the pre-recorded stories.
Yeah.
Or turning in how long the package actually is. Like all that stuff to me is like, but the people above me who are responsible for timing out the actual newscast, for factoring in commercial breaks and stuff, they need to know that stuff because it's timed down to the millisecond. And it was like every single day, somebody was getting really angry with me because I wasn't turning my stuff in, or wasn't turning it in on time, or turning it in soon enough. Like the actual work itself, because it's so deadline oriented, I had no problem with that, because I'm like, because that's a challenge.
It's like
we love challenges,
hyper
right?
focus too. Like,
yes, but
project.
but the minutia stuff, it's part of the job. It's part of the job. And for some reason, I couldn't figure out that little detaily stuff. And so I was getting yelled at a lot. and like the people who were working with me who like had to pick up the slack were like, they didn't like me very much. They thought I was good at what I did on camera and out in the field, but like they would just rather not have to deal with, where's Stacey's running? Where's Stacey turning this? Is she turning that? And my ears were always burning, like, oh, somebody talking about me? So my news director at that time was just like dumbfounded, like, I don't understand you. It's like, you do all this hard stuff really well, but the easy stuff you can't do. Like he was like, I don't understand. And I'm like, me either. I don't either. And then he'll be like, and then, if I yell at you and then get on you about it, then you'll do it, but then you'll stop doing it. You have to learn stuff all over again. And it's the easy part of the job. I'm like, I don't know. So he didn't say like, maybe you got ADHD. He was just like, maybe you need to go see somebody about memory. Like he knew something was going on in my head. So he was like, I would go see a psychiatrist or something if I were you. So I was like, sure, okay, does our insurance pay for it? And it did. And so I went to see a psychiatrist for my 12 sessions that my insurance paid for. And by session 3, she brought it up. She was like, Stacey, have you ever considered that you might have ADHD? And I was just kind of like, what? Like, what do little white boys have? I don't remember exactly what was said after that. I just know that she strongly suggested that might be me too. She prescribed Ritalin. And if she told me what to expect from the medication, I didn't listen, or I forgot, because I was like, I got these magic pills. I got these magic pills. And I'm thinking like, I'm gonna take a pill and life's gonna be good, and it didn't work that way.
No, it does not.
So and I didn't have any more sessions with her because the insurance only paid for 12. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't have a whole lot of follow-up. I didn't have a whole lot of education about, what ADHD actually is, like neurologically. I didn't know anything. All I knew was I had a bottle of pills, and I noticed that nothing was changing. And I'm like, well, I must not have that shit. So I just, I literally was like, I must not have it. And I like literally forgot about it. Like I didn't even think about ADHD again until last year. And then it was like, oh my God, that's what's been going on with me all this time. Like, oh, but you knew that, but then you forgot. It's like, so yeah, that's my story. Good luck cutting that down.
No, it's the perfect length. So what made you last year start to focus in on that, on like the ADHD?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say the realization that I wasn't growing out of the problems that I had. Because I just assumed that, oh, well, I just need to learn how to be an adult, or I just need to grow up, or I just need to, write things down, or I need a better day planner. And I'm like, I just assumed because everybody else around me looked like they were having an easy time at life, or at least easier than me. I'm like, well, okay, eventually I'll get there too. I just assumed that maybe I'm just slower than everybody. I don't know. This is how I got to the point of like, I need to do something about this. I was just at rock bottom. I was convinced that I had kind of reached the end of the road because I figured I'll outgrow this, and I never did. I never outgrew the inattention to detail. I never outgrew just putting my foot in my mouth all the time. I never outgrew being that person that would just jump into a stranger's conversation and be like, oh, well, let me tell you my opinion,
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, that's not, I'm like, oh, it's just me. And so I never outgrew learning how to deal with my finances, and that's been such a big point of shame for me. But I'm like, oh, I just don't make enough money. When I make enough money, those problems will be over. Well, even when I was making enough money, however that much is, I was still like, why don't I have any money in my checking account, And it's just like over and over and over. And I was so depressed early last year. I was kind of newly divorced as well. And I was just like feeling like a failure, I felt like all of the potential that I've always felt that I have, that I know I have, it's like, I'm never going to get there. I figure, okay, by 30, I'm going to be there. And then I wasn't there,
And what is there? What does there even mean? It's like, oh my God.
Yeah. And I'm like, why am I still stressing and struggling with the exact same issues today that I was 20 years ago? Like I've had a zillion jobs since then. I've had 2 different careers since then. I've had a marriage, like the circumstances have changed, but I'm the same. So I must be the problem, And I was tired of being that way. You know, I was just exhausted from always trying so hard and still coming up short, you know, or always starting something new and not being able to finish it. Like, I'm just like, maybe I'm like a sociopath or psychotic or something. Like, I was thinking all of these things about myself. And so I told this story on Eric Tiver's podcast, ADHD Rewired. I'm going to give you a truncated version that I gave him because
Sure.
he just let me loose and I just kept talking before I knew it. He was like, oh, well, Stacey, it's been nice talking to you. I'm like, wait, you only asked me one question. Like, oh, you have to. So I was so down and frustrated and depressed that I remember going on a hike one morning, and I'd gone especially earlier. And I was sitting on a rock and I was just looking over like the city of LA, and I was like, city sucks. Like everything sucked to me. Like, because my life was like, I'm just like, oh, life sucks. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to feel this way anymore. And so I started praying, and I was asking God, listen, I need some changes. I need some answers. I need to be shown what is wrong with me, because clearly I am too dumb to know. You know, it's like, I feel like I'll have an idea, and then I'll chase that nugget of an idea, and then I'll forget what I was doing. I will forget I was going down that path, or it won't work. And I was just so sick of being in the dark. And I remember these specific words, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this. I said, God, please, I know, because I was having an idea. I need more structure. I knew that. I needed more discipline. I knew that. So I'm like, well, maybe I need to join a Tony Robbins course or something. Like I was trying to find something externally to fix a problem I didn't know I had, you know? Yeah. So I said, God, can you please show me a toolbox with my name on it and the tools inside that I can use to fix whatever's broken in me? That's what I said. Okay, that was that morning. That night, I'm watching Netflix, and I'm trying to find something to watch, and I came across the Ted Bundy tapes. I was curious because, like, you know, I knew, you know, as much as anybody else knew about Ted Bundy. You know, he was this attractive, you know, serial killer. Yeah. And so, you know, I'm like bored. I'm like, oh, let me watch the first episode. And one episode turned into all 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 of them. And I came away feeling sorry for Ted Bundy. Oh. No, okay, please, nobody listening, don't hate me. Please, don't hate me. I felt every episode, I kept thinking, oh my God, Ted Bundy could have been something else entirely different, because everybody around him who knew him personally were like, he has so much potential. Ted, we don't know what happened to Ted. He had so much potential. And I was hearing that in my head, like my whole adult, like, Stacey has so much potential. What happened? And you know, and I was thinking, oh my God, my family's so disappointed in me. They're probably wondering if I'm ever gonna like reach my potential. And I'm like, poor Ted Bundy. And I mean, not that I wasn't, you know, empathetic towards his victims, but I'm like, this is a man who has admitted he cannot help himself. You know, like every bad impulse, he acts on it because he can't help himself. And I was feeling that way too. You know, like, oh, sometimes I can't just stop myself, but like, I can't have one cookie, I gotta eat all of them. I can't have one potato chip, I gotta eat the whole bag. Like, everything is all or nothing. I'm going down the wrong path, but I can't stop it. It's gonna be disastrous, but I gotta keep going because I've started now. Yep, I know that struggle. Yes, it's like, no matter what it is, it's like, I've gotta be all in or nothing. You know, it's like, oh, I know this is a bad choice, but I'm too far down the road now. So that whole sense of like not even having control over like my compulsion to like do stuff like that, do I really need to be reading this comic book right now? I don't. I got all stuff to do, but I can't stop. You know. Yeah. And so I kept thinking in my head, could Ted Bundy have been helped with some kind of medication? Like, I'm trying to like fix Ted Bundy in my head. I'm like, what would have helped him? So then the next morning, I'm still waking up thinking about Ted Bundy. And I'm like, man, maybe I'm a sociopath too. Now I'm worried about me. Like, maybe I'm a psychopath like Ted Bundy. Because I'm like, why am I empathizing with this serial killer? Oh my God, there's something wrong with me. So I'm like Googling. I'm sitting at Starbucks, I'm Googling, could Ted Bundy have been helped with medication? I went down a rabbit hole that landed me on the self-test for ADHD page on the CHAD website, the Children and Adults with Attention Deficit Disorder, from Ted Bundy to CHAD. And I'm reading these questions, And there's all this speculation that Ted Bundy, like, was bipolar or schizophrenic, or at the very least had ADHD. At the very least, those are his problems. But I'm reading all the questions on this self-test, not even knowing what website I'm on really. And I'm like, hey, that's me. That's me. What impulsive? That's me. Terrible with money. Like every single box. If there were like 27 questions, I ticked off 26 of them. And I'm like, what is this? Did I make this? And I'm like, oh my God, this is the self-test for ADHD. And I started crying, like these hot tears just like rolling down my face onto my laptop at Starbucks. The guy's like, ma'am, are you okay? I'm like, I'm good. Like, oh my God, this is the answer I've been looking for. And mind you, 24 hours earlier, I'm sitting on a rock asking God, please show me some tools, a toolbox with my name on it. And so I know it sounds crazy. When I say it out loud, it's crazy to me too. But had I not run across that Ted Bundy documentary, I don't think I would have fallen down that rabbit hole of trying to diagnose Ted Bundy and actually diagnosing myself.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's so fascinating. And also I'm not judging you at all. I mean, I think it's like you can learn so much about yourself from seeing it in someone else and then being like, do I do that?
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes so much sense to me. And I'm so happy for you to have gone on that 24-hour journey,
Yeah, thank you. I mean, maybe I should back up and say, if I hadn't made that specific prayer that I made the morning before, maybe I wouldn't have run across that Ted Bundy documentary. But I truly believe, I don't know if you're a person of faith or not, I am. But I believe if I had not had that awareness that something in me needed to be addressed, I don't think I would have been able to project myself onto some of his struggles to the point where I'm trying to diagnose him, but I'm really trying to diagnose me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and just for the record, I do not have murderous tendencies. Okay. That is where similarities between Ted Bundy and I end.
That is set on the record.
Yes,
you get that? Great.
I've wanted to strangle people, but I've never actually done it.
Yes. I understand that impulse. Yeah. So I want to ask one of my favorite questions that I know I never tell people that I'm going to ask this question, but it's my favorite. So you're in comedy and you've been an actor and I would say that newscasting is performing. I'm sure you would agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
What does it feel like to make art?
It feels like it's an energy source for me. And I've dabbled in other forms of artistic expression. When I was in college, I took a drawing course and I got a great deal of satisfaction from that. Didn't continue it, but still when I was in it, it was like, it felt like I'm able to express something that could only come out in this manner. I took a photojournalism course in college. And for a long time after that, I was really into photographing, abandoned structures, landscape photography, just anything that looked old and abandoned and half torn down, really interesting to me. So I would photograph that stuff. And then when everything turned digital, because I was still, you could actually part of the art was processing the film yourself,
Sure.
So I liked the tangible part of that. And when the tangible part of that art process went away, I kind of lost interest in photography. Not lost interest because I love taking pictures, but there's a huge difference in how you feel when you take a picture with an iPhone versus, a proper 35 millimeter camera or an SLR. So
yeah.
So that left me with writing. It's probably the most consistent way I have expressed myself artistically. And I owe that to my Aunt Helen because she bought me my first journal when I was 10 or 11 on my birthday. And I've been keeping a journal pretty much ever since. I believe that sparked my desire to express myself, to express what's going on the inside. So writing's been the most consistent art form. And there's just something about the tangible. Again, I'm from the analog age, okay? I'm old. There is something about taking a pen in your hand and just putting it to paper and just putting your thoughts down. And something about that is very cathartic for me, you know? And I can get a lot of perspective sometimes that I can't get just by sitting there and mulling over my thoughts or typing it in on my laptop. And it just means that being able to get out all that's in there kind of help unclogs the plumbing in there, you know, because I get like a zillion thoughts a minute, you know, like anything artistically, it's like somebody just downloaded a whole bunch of files at once. And I'm usually not in a place where I can like record what I'm thinking or capture that. And then it's frustrating. And then it's like, I never thought it. So that has been part of my ADHD struggle as well. And I didn't even realize it. That when I get all these ideas at one time, you know, like, oh, I should do this. And what about that? It's like they just all come at once. And that creates a lot of anxiety for me, again, if I can't capture that in that moment. And so it's part of an anxiety release too. So, and the performing part, that's part of the art too. I've always been like a little ham. Always. I was mentioning to you earlier before we started recording that if you look in our family photo albums, I mean, like all the way back to like age 7, I'm wearing like my really styling rabbit fur coat. I'm just like posing like, you know, my best, you know, glamour shots photo back then. So yeah, something about being on the other side of the camera brings out, I think, more of my true essence of who I am, which a lot of it was very much suppressed when I was in news. And that's why I don't regret not ever going back to news, because even though the most fun part of my day when I was reporting was those 30 seconds I got to be on camera for the newscast, or when I became an anchor, you know, just those 30 minutes, you know, it's like, gosh, the whole part of the day sucks until I get to this part. You know, it felt like I was actually always suppressing myself until, hey, the camera's on, you know, so that I feel like the camera and a live audience allows me to tap into who I truly am and to express it without judgment. So, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, people expect you to perform sort of, you know, when you're on camera or when you're in front of an audience. And, you know, and nobody's ever like asked me this question, but I think that people who don't have a natural aptitude or desire to perform assume that you're having to turn something on to get up in front of people and do that. And it probably looks that way with a lot of people, because a lot of performers, they're one way when they're in front of an audience, in front of a camera, and then when the camera turns off,
Yep.
You know, it's like, what a dick, you know?
Yep.
And I don't think that. I don't think it might be an on-off switch, but I like to call it for myself just an up. Turn it up, because, you know, being in front of a live audience or in front of a camera brings out who I am. I just turn it up a little bit. You know, the problem is, even when the camera's not on, there's not a large crowd, I don't know how to turn it down. I'm just up all the time.
Yeah.
so yeah, that's the problem. Like, people will find I'm the exact same way in person as I am on stage, and it's a little annoying to some people, but whatever.
Oh, I think it's so refreshing. It's like, this is, you know, exactly who this person is, and I love that.
Yeah. Even in high school, like I got a glimpse of what I could be doing or who I could be. I was hosting a talent show in high school. Was it my senior year or junior year? I think it was my senior year. Yeah, senior year, we had a talent show, and I was picked to MC it for whatever reason. And that's the funny thing, is that people around you see stuff in you before you ever recognize it. You know what I'm saying? So I don't remember who decided I'd be the best person to MC the talent show, but I did. And like this whole freaking auditorium, you know, of other students and students' parents, and they were like getting a kick out of me. And I was so nervous because I'd never done that type of thing before. And then when people started like laughing at the stuff I was saying, I started like to loosen up, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Oh my God, I feel so loved. Oh, you know, like I felt so validated. I remember that being one of the best experiences of my life still, because that was the first time I experienced just being appreciated and validated for just me, just being me in front of a lot of people. And it didn't occur to me at that time that I was tapping into who I am. You know what I'm saying? And it didn't occur to me that that is something I should have kept pursuing at that time, because I didn't know anybody. Like, what do you even call that? You know, I went to a little public high school in Alabama. What do you call what I just did? Like, I'm going to go to college and major in emceeing. I mean, like, like, I didn't even know what to call that. I didn't know anybody making a living doing that. So, you know, I just thought, I don't know what I thought, but I wasn't like, oh yeah, I want to pursue this road.
Right. You're like, well, you don't even know what that road means. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
it took me a while to find that road again, but I did. So.
Yeah, it's so great, because then I wanted to bring up your show, ADHD is the New Black, which is on YouTube, everyone. And I'm
Wait, what was that show? What was the name of the show?
ADHD is the New Black. Did you hear that? Do you need me to say it one more
down.
time? ADHD is the New Black.
Yeah, let me write that down.
Yeah. You should actually subscribe. I heard that it could use some subscribers, so you should. You know.
Yes, it's growing, but you know, the more subscribers, the more people have access to the information and the fun.
Yes, for real. Well, and I just love that, you know, you have combined your knowledge of ADHD and your acting and comedy skills and some news reporter skills, I'm guessing, you know, like to do these videos. So I would love to know how this came about.
Sure. Well, after I decided that I was going to address my ADHD aggressively and was looking for resources that weren't available when I initially got my diagnosis at age 26, I discovered this whole world of podcasts centered around ADHD awareness and several YouTube shows. Not that many, by the way. Like, there are a few people who have, like, you know, they'll put up a video here and there, like, oh, what it's like to have ADHD.
Right.
But like a channel devoted to ADHD information, there's only 2 or 3. And Jessica McCabe's was the one that really drew me in, because this is a young woman who's funny. She's very funny, also very authoritative in her information, while stating that she's not a doctor or a psychiatrist, but because she became so self-educated. And I just love the way she presented it in a way that didn't make you feel like, oh my God, I've got a disease.
Right.
She presented it in a way that is easy to absorb the information, and it's fun to watch. And so, although initially when I saw her channel, I wasn't thinking, oh, I want to do that. The more I became more passionate about helping other Black women and women of color to not just talk about their issues, but understand, you know, to accept themselves enough with the condition to be able to talk about it. The best way I could figure to do it is through YouTube, because I initially started trying out bits about being a Black woman and having ADHD in my warm-up comedy. I do audience warm-up for live television tapings here. And so about this time last year, I'd started, you know, just throwing in some bits about the effects Adderall has had on me in my dating life. You know, just stuff that everybody has experienced before or have heard being poked fun at before, but it from my perspective, which makes it different. And I'll tell you, you want to know what, you want to hear one of the bits?
You tell me anything. Okay. This is your moment.
Okay, so I'm not going to do it like all bitty, like, oh, I'm in a stand-up show, but just to give you an example of why this resonated, I think, with other women of color. Yeah. Just women in general. So before I started taking Adderall, before I'd been diagnosed with my ADHD, it's gonna sound so weird when I say it out loud. I'm like, ooh, nobody's gonna like me after this.
Can't wait.
Okay, so let me preface all this so that you can understand, like, the how heavy this is if you think too hard about it.
Okay.
I was raised in Alabama, grew up with my grandparents in Alabama, in the South, right? So, you know, like Sweet Home Alabama, Confederate flag, all that stuff. Woohoo! That sounds good.
Yeah.
I have mostly dated white guys my whole adult life, until I started taking Adderall. And it was like, I went to bed like just like, oh, probably end up marrying another white guy, and waking up going, whoa, check out Reginald. Look at him. Look at that chocolate brother over there. Like my whole, like, just what I was attracted to just shifted. Just, it was like pre-Adderall, after Adderall. Pre-Adderall is all about the Chads, and after Adderall is all about the, you know, the Leroys, whatever. Anyway, so, and I can't explain it. And I don't even ask me to try. The best thing that I can possibly conceive that happened is that me accepting my ADHD diagnosis made me more accepting of myself. You know what I'm saying? Because I think there's a lot of self-hatred going on within myself for a long time. And not necessarily about race, but just about, I would like to be somebody else other than me. You know what I'm saying? Because I screw up so many things all the time. You know, I'm always like, you know, the last person to finish up a task, or I'm always getting something wrong and forget, you know, like all the stuff that we start hating ourselves about, that we are challenged with in ADHD. I had internalized it so deeply that I like really didn't have any self-love for me. So probably projected outward. I'm guessing that probably meant I don't want to be a black guy, because that's too much like me.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And so now I'm just like, whoa, check you out, bro. Hi. My digits, you know, it's strange. I mean, I still like white guys, but not like exclusively anymore, you know?
Yeah. There was like a shift that seemed to happen.
Yeah.
So you were, in terms of like when you started ADHD is the New Black, you said that, you told me this earlier, that you were doing bits and then were having women actually come up to you. I was going to come back around
to that, but I forgot.
Yeah.
That's where I was going with that. I do the bits, like what I was just telling you about just now, and other bits about, you know, just how flaky. I thought I was flaky because I'm a Libra. Oh, I thought I was running late all the time because I'm black, you know? Like, I was just working all these bits, and it's like, turns out it was 99.9% the ADHD, you know? So I talk about just my personal journey with going from being in the dark about it and being in the light about it, and just how there was a whole 180 shift. And so just pretty much after every time I, you know, would have an audience, that somebody inevitably every single day would come up to me like it was like they were about to tell me a secret, like, oh my God, thank you for talking about that. Oh my gosh, I can't believe there's another Black woman talking about it. Like these women, like, and I'm a warm-up comic for A Little Late with Lily Singh. Her show, her audience is primarily women and women of color. So it was like women looking like me coming up to me saying they'd never seen women like them talking about these types of challenges. And we have them. It's just we're underrepresented in the conversations out there about ADHD. We're underrepresented in the whole discussion about mental health, because it's such a stigma for some cultural groups to acknowledge that you have those type of challenges, you know? And I know within my family, I don't know if I mentioned this, but my grandparents raised me. And so my aunts and uncles, they come from that generation where, you know, you just grin and bear it. You know, you don't talk about your problems. You don't burden other people with your you know, they keep everything so locked up, you know, just like, no, everything's great. Everything's good. And even my own biological mother, she didn't raise me. Her mother raised me. But my biological mother, she, like, even recently, I was going through some type of problem. I was talking about it on Facebook, and she called me up. She's like, you don't put your problems out there like that. You have some dignity. Black women don't do that. And I'm like, yes, we do. I'm like, wow. Well, we should be, you know, so that's that generation. You put your business out there in the street, because, you know, people will start looking at you a certain way, or thinking of you as being weak and not trusting you, because, you know, it's like, no, when we need help too, you know, like, the whole thing is, I'm sure you've heard this before, and it's true that because of the perception of race and, you know, what people just have this prejudgment about, most Black people who enter into the workforce or school know that in order for us to be considered equal, we have to work twice as hard, you know, or be twice as smart just to be considered
exceptional.
Yeah. exactly. And, you know, if you talk about having, oh, I'm so forgetful, you know, oh my God, the was like, now you're adding that to your burden, you know, now you're adding that to the burden you're already carrying of having to show up, you know, being better just to be considered as good. So that's where that stigma comes from, you know. And you know, I don't know how true that is anymore for people of a younger generation, but I do know that there's still people just don't like to, you know, there's a way to talk about it without making yourself look like, you know, the biggest flake in the world. There's a way to express what you need without being like, excuse me, boss, I have ADHD and I'm just gonna tell you now, you know, I'm probably not gonna turn this assignment in on time. You know, like there's a way to communicate your needs without being like, excuse me, I'm special and I'm just gonna need some extra time, you know, like without putting your business out there. And there's a way to ask for help without appearing like you're a weak person. And I think that's a lot of the misperception too, is if I ask for help, now I'm not considered a strong person. Well, nobody can be strong all the time, you know? And there's a lot of other cultural things that might be mixed in there, you know, like some people's religion, you know, religious beliefs or their family's religious beliefs, you know, sometimes you end up being, you know, crushed under other people's, you know, belief that, well, I'm just going to pray this away, you know, and then you get shamed because you want to go see a therapist. So, Jesus is my therapist. You know, like I had an aunt tell me that one time, you know, she was telling me, it was like 15 years ago. She was telling me that she was feeling kind of down. She didn't know. And I was like, well, why don't you go see a therapist? Well, what kind of therapist? And I'm like, a psychotherapist. Jesus is my therapist. Well, you know what she ended up doing 15 years later? Jesus told her to go see a psychotherapist.
That's pretty good.
So yeah, there might be, you know, you're living in the shadow of other people's expectations of you. And I mean, there's an added stressor for the most part to being Black in America, you know? And then you couple that with a condition that just exists to sabotage you.
Right.
So that's a double whammy, you know? So yeah, it's important that people who are going through something can relate to somebody that seems familiar to them or that they feel more comfortable sharing that experience with. You know what I'm saying? Like I had no issue connecting to Jessica McCabe's YouTube channel, but it wasn't like a Black thing because Jessica's very white. And she's like translucent. She'll say that though. We're becoming friends. But what I connected with was the fact that, you know, we're close in age. She's very bubbly, very, very light. And that's how I come at the world too. So that's the part that I connected with her on. But I think specifically within, you know, Black women, women of color, we are so underrepresented physically, you know, in so many things historically. I mean, I guess it's getting better now, but before you listen to somebody's words, you know, you might just look at that person and go, well, that's a white guy. He's got nothing to say that I want to hear, you know, and you click past it. Or, oh, that's a white girl. That's a Karen. You click past it. You know, and I'm being very broad here. But if somebody who has questions about ADHD and they're a Black woman and they're Googling Black women ADHD, is it a thing or diagnosed or do I have it or whatever? And then, you know, somebody like me pops up and they're like, oh, shoot. Like, what? I'm not, what? Another sister has this? Oh, this is real. You know, now you're encouraged. Now you're like, oh my gosh, this woman, she still has struggles, but she's managing it and she has a good outlook on life. And that makes me feel encouraged, you know, because maybe somebody's really depressed about having ADHD. Maybe a Black woman, maybe some Black woman out there, the last thing she wants to do is be like, hi, I'm Black and I have ADHD. You know, like nobody wants to, you know, but maybe she wants to know that, hey, she's going through what I'm going through and she's late all the time. I'm late all the time. And she's talking about why she's late all the time. Now I understand why I'm late all the time. Like, then you start to feel normalized.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You don't start to feel like, oh, I'm just this person that and just invisible. I'm invisible until I make mistakes. You know, like, people just need representation. Just cut it down to that. People need representation. Yeah.
I want people who are listening to this podcast to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I need to tune in, you know?
Yeah. And there are other reasons as well, because I like to laugh. I like to make people feel good. I like to leave people feeling encouraged. And I think that's what, if not the main goal, then definitely the secondary goal in doing this YouTube channel is not just to like give you, you know, some scholarly information, which I do, by the way. I do a lot of research. I put a lot of work into these episodes.
I can confirm. Having seen the episodes, I can confirm this.
Yes, and nobody's paying me to do this. That's why I need 1,000 subscribers. It is so time consuming because I don't want to just put a bunch of garbage out there. You know, I don't want to put people's opinions out there. I want to give you solid science backed up with solid research and then solid tools and solutions that are out there while connecting with you through my experience, you know? Like if I can make you laugh through my own experience, and then you come away too with knowledge, you feel good, you got some tools to go forward. That's why you should be watching, because it's funny.
Yes. It really is. It's so funny.
Because it's entertaining and it's helpful. But I try to be as human. I try to be as much of myself as I can be, because a lot of things that I talk about in my episodes are things that I wouldn't have told you 10 years ago. You know, I would have never admitted 10 years ago how many jobs I've been fired from because of the same ADHD challenges, you know, and not knowing that was what was going on. I would have never told you that. Anybody. God, that was the biggest secret I was keeping, probably from my family. Like, you changed jobs again, Stacey. Well, you sure do like to move around. You know, yeah, you know me, don't let grass grow under my feet. You know, when in reality, it's like I got fired from another job.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things I love you talking about is the side eye. Was that side eye that I think people with ADHD know so well. And you're like, oh, please don't give me the look again.
I know. Oh God. I used to keep a secret calendar. So when I was still working in news, how long will it take before they figure me out? You know, because when you're new at work, everybody likes you. Everybody's curious about the new girl. And like everybody wants to show you around and show you the ropes and, you know, make sure you know how to do this and that and know where everything is. And then by my second news job, I remember thinking I was getting my photo taken for my employee badge. And I was like, man, they like me now, but wonder how long before they figure out, figure out whatever, you know, before they find me out. And it's usually about 3 months. About 3 months, they're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I have to tell you this. Like,
oh God.
You know, wow, like you really said that out loud, you know? Like,
I love that you have like a calendar. You're like, okay, well, let's
it's like,
just see.
No matter how hard, I can't speak for anybody else. I just know for me, no matter how hard I tried to be different than the last time, I would still end up stepping on a landmine, you know, because I didn't have enough self-awareness or knowledge that, I'm setting myself up for the same shit, you know? Right. And that part sucks. Because, you know, it takes ADHD people a long time to learn lessons. That's science. That's not just me. That's science. Yeah. It's like, I thought you would have learned this the first 10 times you screwed that up. Nope. You're like, sorry. I might need to go through this one more time.
You're like, I did learn it, but then I messed up again. Sorry.
Yeah,
like
I
forgot. Yeah, it was definitely in my brain. Then it wasn't.
Yeah, it was and it wasn't.
Yeah.
I intended to mess it up again.
How do people find you? Or ADHD is the New Black?
Sure. I'm on YouTube. So if you type in, all you got to do is type in ADHD is the New Black, and my channel will pop right up. There's not another channel called that. Can't miss it. It's got, bright pink and green colors and beautiful black girl with big, beautiful hair.
I love it.
Yeah, ADHD is the new Black. That's all you got to do. Please subscribe. And I'll tell you the importance of subscribing to this channel is I get my 1,000 subscribers. And I'm getting there. As of today, I had 679.
Okay.
When I get to the 1,000 subscribers, this is why it's important to people who listen or people who are watching the YouTube channel. YouTube has like all of these levels. Every time you get to a certain point, you get more features within YouTube Studio. So once I get to about 1,000 subscribers or so, I'll be able to do more like live interaction with my viewers or the people who are subscribing. So if they wanted to do like some live interaction, ask live questions, or, I just make it a lot more interactive with people, make it fun. So to pull them more into the conversation, because I'd love to have more people kind of present in real time to be able to talk about what they're going through as well. So, YouTube doesn't let you do certain things like that until they see that, oh, your channel is actually, needed. People are coming back to your channel. So then they kind of reward you with that. So yes, please help me get to the first 1,000 subscribers so I can interact more with the audience. And that's it. Yeah.
So cool. Was there anything else that you wanted to say before we kind of wrap up?
Well, October is ADHD Awareness Month. I don't know if people are aware of that.
No, they are.
It's also my birth month. My birth month is October 17th.
Yes, I heard you say you were a Libra, and I was like, oh, I bet it's coming up. Yeah.
Yeah, and all that really means is like, I'm glad it has a month. Just like Black History only has a month, but now, now it might be year round, just as ADHD awareness should be year round. Yes. Any month is a good month to learn more about ADHD, learn more how you can become more productive or, be less forgetful, or just to achieve your goals. I find that the biggest thing about ADHD is that it is really a ceiling to reaching your potential fully, and there's degrees of ADHD. There's a spectrum. Some people might be like, yeah, I kind of got it, or I have it in a mild form. So, I found my own workaround and I'm good. That is fantastic. I had my own workaround too. It was called mom and dad. It was called having to get up and catch the school bus at 7 a.m. Right. It was, like those structures were in place and it masked my challenges. Yeah. And then when I got out of college, that structure is gone. And now I'm in the workplace and it's like, nobody's crossing my I's and dotting my T's or reminding me to cross my I's and dot my T's. Mm-hmm. That's when it showed up. And, it hits us all at different times, but we always have it. It's just your environment either presents it or your environment kind of masks it. So.
Right. Absolutely. Stacey, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. I feel I've learned so much and I hope that people subscribe to your channel, and I just wish you all the best.
I really
with
appreciate
everything.
That. And thank you for finding me. Thank you for being patient with my whole little scheduling hiccup yesterday, but it has been a joy to talk to you.
Yes, you too.
What I love about the ADHD community is that we are a community of very empathetic people, and we get it. We understand each other, so that makes me feel like I'm really seen, in this world. Yeah. So I'm glad to be a part of it.
Good. Me too. I feel very seen as well. So thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that's it for today for the ADHD Artist Podcast. This podcast was produced by me, Sarah Guise. Original music composed by Christopher Aaron Narr. You can find more of his work at www.christopheraaronnar.com. Narr is spelled Knarr. Podcast artwork by Joseph Ramsky. For any inquiries, you can contact him directly at jramski3@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to hit subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also follow us on Instagram at the ADHD Artist Pod.